Hope you're having a good Sunday. I actually wanted to start this conversation with one. Let's see. I want to start not with this lady, but let's start with this one. So, welcome to Definitely to Me. I had to retake this. But anyway, long story short, you have to have the heart for this type of work if you want to win. So, here we go. So our first story for today really talks about, this is definitely to me, I think it's episode 6, if I'm not mistaken. So our tea is piping hot again, and it's steeped in power, truth, and some serious consequences, where we're really diving into two incredible stories about two women who vastly are, different. They took different paths. One burning question was, what happens when a woman stands her ground against the odds, meticulously building a defense against powerful institutions versus when power is wielded irresponsibly, perhaps masking deeper issues? Because one woman battled a financial giant, allegedly, um, you know, alleging fraud and intimidation, and her story has gone viral. The other, well, she's now facing a demand to repay millions. This is in rands. This is, part of why the story was a bit hard for me, my people, because it's about, South Africa, and yeah, just basically, what happens when you're faced with this adversity um, in my country. The situation that perhaps echoes past patterns. Let's get into it, right? The first story, it's a complex one, a masterclass in resilience, strategy, and the power of principle stand, um, amplified by digital age. It's a story of Professor Anil Hammond, a figure who has meticulously detailed account, particularly on platforms like your TikTok. And now I know she's got another story. She's also using YouTube quite a lot. Between giving us a harrowing battle, really, that she has with a bank in South Africa called, one of the biggest banks, called Standard Bank. Now, before I continue, there is a disclaimer on the description box. So let's continue. Let's break down the timelines. The dispute reportedly began between 2015 and 2016 with the acquisition of a luxury vehicle. I believe it's a Ferrari, financed through Standard Bank, right? So according to, Prof, see if I can hear myself. Yeah, this is her narrative. She said she wanted to pay cash for the car, but hold on, guys, my hair's holding on to this thing. Yeah, okay. So she wanted to pay cash for the vehicle, but that was instead placed into a financial agreement between her and the bank. So what followed, she claims, were severe irregularities. Sorry, my tongue today. But so in 2026, between 2016 to 2017, she announced unexpectedly deductions and confusions over payment terms. When she requested the documentation, she allegedly, that she received. She alleges that she received a contract that was fundamentally flawed, containing incorrect details, forged signatures, and a different price. So that for me was quite interesting. Like, how could you? And that was, she insists this is core of her fraud claim that, that the contract presented was fabricated or altered. The conflict escalated, she said, between 2017 to 2018. Payments became contested, and Standard Bank began treating the account as in arrears. Imagine initiating collection and legal processes. So they're at it saying, "Hey, you owe us, so pay up." So Prof then she starts to respond. In her response, as she describes it, it was to open a separate account. This is her response to what they're asking her to do in terms of payment, that they're saying she's in arrears, and she's like, okay, I'm going to dispute this, but in the meantime I'll open a separate payment account. So she refuses to pay under the terms she believed were fraudulent. So her claims are extremely serious, extending beyond, financial irregularities to, alleged intimidation. The story was harrowing when I listened to it, so I won't share any of it there. Just go to her YouTube, and I'll leave the link in the description box as well. But she even had threats to her safety, which she attributes to the fraud syndicates linked to this dispute. Now, and this is important, these are her claims, and they have not been proven in court. On the other side, you have Standard Bank, and their version is completely different. The bank says this was a normal vehicle finance agreement, one that was valid, signed, and it's legally binding. So according to them, there was no fraud, no fake contract, and no irregularities. They argue that the real issue was that, payments fell behind. And once that happened, they followed the standard procedures, collections, legal steps, and enforcements of the agreement. So, and here's their strongest point. They say the matter was eventually settled. This is according to Standard Bank. Professor Anel agreed to pay the outstanding amount, and the account was closed. And the situation was resolved years ago, they say. They also strongly deny all the serious allegations, including any claims of fraud, intimidation, or violence, and describe those as false and misleading. So in 2022, Prof. Hammond, along with a daughter and a trust, filed a summons against Standard Bank. However, according to the bank, the case has not progressed meaningfully. And some of the extreme allegations now circulating were not included in the original court filings. The story, of course, exploded, going globally and viral, basically, between 2024 and now 2026, primarily through her TikTok videos. In these detailed emotional videos, she presents a whistleblower, I'll put it in quotation marks, narrative, framing it as a fight against powerful institution. The storytelling style tapping into common fears of banks, scamming individuals, and powerful entities versus little guy created a massive psychological hook. the complexities of this financial and legal dispute is simplified on social media into a clear victim versus power bank, a powerful bank rather narrative. As the claims escalated from contract dispute to fraud, and then to conspiracy level allegations. I mean, she's got, like I said, harrowing, narrative about this whole situation. It kept audiences hooked, like myself, and amplified is virality through the talk algorithms promotion of long watch times. I thought this was quite interesting. It's a controversial content. So when you step back, you're left with completely opposing narratives. On one side, the one side says, this is a case of fraud and wrongful doing by a powerful institution. The other says straightforward, it's a financial dispute that was settled and later turned into a viral story. And the truth is, without a financial court ruling confirming either version, this case sits right in that tension between, legal reality and public perception. Very interesting. So now I want to pause for a minute, guys. This is where, we need to connect. Think about it. Think about Professor Hammond's journey. Her meticulous documentation and detailed accounts shared across platforms highlight a strategic approach to her defense. Her background as a businesswoman and, I dare say, a consumer advocate clearly, equipped her with the tool to dissect contracts and understand financial processes. But it was her strength as a mother, a mom, and an unwavering commitment to truth that fooled her for years, as she recounts. I mean, how many of us can simply say, similar strength of expertise or, that we could draw upon in a crisis? So Professor H's approach demonstrates the power of being prepared and persistent. So okay, sorry guys, we've got a comment here. Let me read it out. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Hello, Avi. Shout out. Narrative on social media. It's vital to remember the difference between a compelling story and legally proven facts, especially when faced with such opposing accounts. The story is powerful. It's a powerful testament to knowing your rights, but also the deep well of strength, that we, especially women, possess when our loved one are threatened. Ooh, Mother Lioness. And when we believe we are facing injustice, it always serves us as a reminder, right, to critically evaluate information, especially when it goes viral. As someone who's constantly building narrative myself in a new environments and exploring the world, this story really reinforces what I always emphasize on DHT. Protect yourself. Document everything. Own your power. So Professor Hammond didn't just fight. She, in my view, architectured her defense, proving that knowledge, determination, and of course, vigorous documentation are your greatest assets. I'll tell you a story later about my my experiences, especially living in someone else's land, about documentation and protecting yourself, even when facing with powerful institutions, and serious counterclaims. But always seek, truth beyond the viral narrative, guys, especially when there are such starkly different versions of events. Right, let's take a pause, have some tea, whatever you're drinking. So let's move on to the next story. This truly blindsided me. So we're talking about Lebogang. Let me see if I can find her. Wait a minute. This is the picture that I started with. So meet Lebogang, right? Lebogang Mokoena. She is a CEO of Rubicon, a brand that's a household name, obviously, in South Africa. She symbolizes success. She's a fashion powerhouse. So Miss Mokoena here built Rubicon from the ground up. I think it took her like a good decade and a half to just, get herself sorted in terms of her brand, right? So, um, speaking about her commitment for empowering young women through fashion, and entrepreneurship, she spoke and walked that we need to not just take away everything from people. We have to also acknowledge what they've done uh, for or what they were trying to achieve, in their past. So the brand itself is known for, its bold designs and aspirational marketing. The public image has always been one of innovation and social consciousness. But behind the glittering facade, a different reality was unfolding, one that raises questions about accountability and really the truth. Yeah. The true cost of ambition, a staggering number, nearly 2.5 million, right? The goal, to equip, she was supposed to equip like 100 young individuals with life-changing skills. A mission that seems perfectly aligned with her brand, right? Her public ethos, basically. So just let it sink in for a minute. You have an opportunity to impact 100 lives, 100 futures, with the potential to transform their lives completely. A promise made by a respected leader and a brand. But what happened to that crucial funding, right? The narrative here is one of stark mismanagement, perhaps even betrayal of trust. The money basically vanished in 2 months. And alarmingly, this was before the program could even officially kick off. So you can imagine funds poof. The funds didn't go towards empowering these 100 young people. Instead, this is where the money went, according to, Special Investigating Unit, the South African Special Investigating Unit, SIU. They say that the funds were spent within 2 months and not on the intended project. So obviously we're going to do a breakdown according to them, is that approximately from the amount, approximately 1.39 mil South African rands, guys, went to operational expenses and logistics, about 200K machinery purchases, 90K rentals, loan repayments were there, school fees, transfers to individual linked to the company, and other general business expenses. So in simple terms, the money was not used to run the business and cover costs. It basically, sorry, was used to cover the business and whatever else. The bottom line is no training was done for these young individuals. So essentially, the money was, funneled somewhere else. So here we are with 100 people that had promises. I don't know about you, but this is the part that truly stings is the, dissonance between aspirational image and alleged reality. It's, the squandered potential, the dashed hopes, the future that could have been bright, now shrouded in uncertainty. Now, this really upsets me because I am from that type of environment. That's my background is, you have to work hard to get out of a situation. You only hope to, and to have someone come in and do this is quite disheartening. So moving on, the CEO has reportedly agreed to repay the funds. Not enough. Not enough for me. Yeah. But here's the critical point, and where the story adds to her background. Repaying the money doesn't magically restore the lost opportunities or erase the impact on those 100 young lives, which I'm sure at some point she was one of them, right? It raises a question about whether this is a genuine attempt to add restoration or a damage control situation. It also begs the question for me, what does this incident reveal about leadership and financial stewardship, especially when, you're contrasted with her earlier stated commitments? Does this suggest a disconnect between public persona and private practice? Or perhaps a pressure cooker of ambition that led to poor choices? There could still be, significant legal, reputational consequences to face here, potentially reshaping, hopefully, how a legacy in the industry is viewed. Now, I need to hear from you, my people. This is where, our conversation starts. Which of these two stories resonated with you? Let me show you the picture of Prof as well. Was it the stand, the principal stand of Professor Hammond, or the cautionary tale of the Rubicon CEO and her leadership decisions? Do you feel that justice in its truest sense was achieved in both scenarios, considering their backgrounds and the outcomes? What are your thoughts on Banks' response versus Professor Hammond's claims? Who do you believe? So let me know in the comments. I would like to hear your story. I think, the virtual nature of the prof's story, and regarding Rubicon, were the outcomes inevitably or the result of a specific leadership choices? In closing, guys, this is why here in DTH, we try our best to really do our best to share and give you all we can about specifically stories. I am passionate about women. We go beyond just, travel destinations and lifestyle trends. We dive into real life, real women, real consequences, stories that show us the power of backgrounds, the choice we make, and the impact they have. I'd like to do some stories also about, uh, our fellow sisters in other parts of industry, like in India or Malaysia. So if you have any stories to share with me, by all means, ping me, let me know. Because whether you're building a life in Abuja or exploring the globe or, fighting your own quiet battles, armed with your principles, your story, your journey, your voice absolutely matter. So that is it for this Sunday, my people. If you find this conversation valuable, please hit that button, hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure you join us every Sunday for more hot takes. This is definitely to me, and the tea is always served. I love you for watching. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.